But it's the only way you're ever gonna learn. You look back and it's all in the past. I'm dwelling on the thoughts I cannot say to you. If I don't say the words, then maybe it's not true. And it feels alright.
Good evening, welcome to NUFC Matters. It's been lights, cameras, action for me all week, and it's lights, cameras, action for Newcastle United fans as we go into the final game before the World Cup break with Neil the Duke Mitchell, Steve Mad Dog Hasty, Steve the Reaper Wraith, and Keith Miguel Patterson. I've got to start with this, Keith. I mean, people at home would be expecting me to start with this because I have literally been working 14, 15-hour days, coming back to my mobile phone and just seeing lots of notifications with you and a well-known journalist who supports Manchester United, who mentions a lot about our club. Gary Finnegan, first in the chat, says, don't mention Miguel to Keith. It seemed to have got off to a bit of a dodgy start, Keith, but then it seems to have progressed into a bit of civilized chat. I'm not sure where we're at, what's happened, what's been the cause of it. I haven't read any of it. So what's actually been going on?
That didn't get off to a dodgy start. He put an article out saying that basically saying that Eddie Howe's success was a lot down to the fact that Newcastle had spent almost more than any club in the world. And I just put a tweet back out saying, and that'd be less than Notts Forest. That's all I did. It's a fact. We spent 25 million less than Notts Forest. So I just said, what's the bloke's problem? And he came on board and chatted for 4 days till 3 o'clock this morning. And like people that say anything. I mean, if people and then he started telling me what was happening in the car case, and I just said, talk shit. That definitely categorically didn't happen. And he was fishing around things, and then I just said to him, I said, I won't be abusive because I've got no intention of being abusive to anybody. I don't like people that's abusive online, but I was laughing a lot, you know what I mean? And I was saying tongue in cheek things to him like, isn't Eddie doing a good job? And eventually this morning, he's blocked about 50 people a day. Probably hasn't blocked me. I don't know why, but I invited him to come on the show. I just said, the lads would love to talk to you to find out why you have a dislike towards us in Man City. And his whole point is he doesn't like state-owned clubs. Well, I said, well, we're not state-owned. He says, yes, you are. No, we're not. I says, the Premier League conceded that point, and that's why the table was passed. And I said, that's what's killing you, isn't it? It's eating into you. And I just, I was on 4 hours last night. And to me, it's like when they were doing the takeover, I had 2 nights when I never went to bed. So it's neither here nor there for me to stay up all night. So at 3 o'clock, he was begging for his bed, and I just said, happy days. See you later. And then he come on tomorrow today, and he was fine. He's blocked a lot of people, including Stuart. But the bones of it all is his 2 points is. He says he's proved that, or he's saying he's got proof that Man City's Abu Dhabi has got worse human rights since Man City took it over. And I said, I'm disappointed if it has, and I'm surprised if it has. I said, because I'd have thought, things would have improved. And I said, my point is in Saudi, I hear from Al Waleed that it is improving and everything is, going one way and it's going well. So we just firmly disagreed. But it was polite, and there was no obscenities used, and they just I don't know. I treat the bloke with respect, but I told him that a lot of the things he said was lies, and then I said, you haven't got a clue. You haven't got the first iota clue what happened on the takeover. I said everything you say is miles away. He's still buying the story. He thinks. The Premier League signed it off after the Behind thing went on. It was signed off 5 days earlier, and he changed and he went, and then he started like sending documents to lads today. He did a lot of that today, but he must have been on. I mean, I went out today at 12 o'clock. I come back at 3. And he'd been chatting throughout with Newcastle fans throughout, so it was healthy stuff. He's a big anti-Newcastle person. I told him that. He's not a Man United supporter. He supports 2 teams: Bray in Ireland and Osasuna in Spain. He doesn't support Man United. And I just said, why do you defend them? And he thinks it's different that Man United accept funds from dirty sports washing countries, but aren't controlled by them. And I said, well, that's just a personal gripe you've got. So there was a lot come out in a lot of sense. You know, you talk all that time. He's quite intelligent. So, and I just said, do you fancy coming on the show? And I said, you know, I think the 2 shows that would happily have you on, and I obviously get permission off Steve to bring him on here, but I would have thought that you 4 would have loved the crack, you know what I mean? Especially Mitch's, you know, Middle East knowledge, you know, to talk about what really happens over there, because there was an awful lot of guesswork that didn't coincide with what Stu Penman and what Neil Mitchell tell me. You know, so what I was doing, Steve, I was telling him, look, when I don't know something, I'll put my hands in the air. And some of the things he said, I said, there's a guy who works in a racist field said to me that targeting somebody who works for a foreign country and abusing him because he's chosen a certain foreign country is equivalent to racism in law, because you're having to go at that bloke purely for the country he's picked. And if what you're saying is, if a guy works for a company in America, that's all right, but if he works for a company in Saudi, it's not. And I just said, why do you target Eddie Howe? And at one stage, a lot of people piled on and said, look, why don't you just write an article about Eddie Howe? And I said, surely that's the route, Miguel. Write an article about Eddie Howe and don't put any sports washing or any reference to the owners in it. And he said, no, I won't. He just point blank said he couldn't do it. He said, it's not him. He said, if he wrote an article about Newcastle, it would have to come with sports washing and, you know, dirty Saudi money and all the rest. And I just said, I says, you know, best you admit it, but, you know, and I corrected on some things. And I just, you know, I was having fun. I said, what was the score in the takeover? It was 1-0 to us. We've got it. And I was sticking stuff in, saying, do you think we'll win the league? And, you know, when Eddie Howe was announced the day manager of the month, and Almiron got player of the month, and then he got goal of the month, I tagged him in my post. And then I just, as our Newcastle supporter might want to congratulate us. But what he said was it was on a public post that Almiron was a very good player and Howe's undoubtedly a good coach. That's what I got from him. And everyone was like cheering that he conceded that. But that was as much as I got. But I mean, this is 4 days. So
yeah,
just me being a bit mad.
4 days, and I say I can't really say anything about it because I haven't had any time to read it. But Mitch, I mean, you'll have stood back and watched it. I mean, I had a spat with Miguel during the old pre-takeover days, and again, I just presented facts, you know, and I was well informed on what was going on with the takeover, and you know, I felt that he, you know, going over old ground here, I just felt he was a bit over the top, and then you know, came out with a fairly audacious tweet, which, you know, I just thought I'm just going to block him and move on. And you know, lots of people get involved. I had a similar one with Luke Edwards during the takeover, but yeah. I don't hold grudges on these things. I crack on, and if I'm wrong, I'll apologize to people. And I think, you know, social media, you know, can be utilized. And guess what Keith is saying there? That it seems as if it was quite civilized. I saw Miguel at the Spurs game, the day of the day after, you know, the first game after the takeover, and went over and we patted them on the back and we exchanged words. So, you know, it's, for me, it seems like water off a duck's back. I think what happens is on these situations, a lot of other people jump on it, Mitch, and I think that's where the problem starts. And I am gonna highlight one thing this weekend. You know, we do have a laugh with the trolls, and yeah, we put up, you know, we do troll of the week. I forgot to do it last week. Don't worry, I have got one. But when it escalates to something like this, this kind of tweet, Mitch, it would be absolutely effing beautiful if Keith Patterson ended his time on earth right before Newcastle win the Premier League United. Now, I'm not being funny, mate. We all know who this is. We know the group of people, and I'm not gonna mention them by name. I don't want anybody to do, but that kind of tweet, right? We get that kind of tweet every week. One of us gets attacked with that kind of thing. We've discussed it on the show. That's what happens when you end up having a sensible debate like Keith's had with Miguel Delaney. And again, Elon Musk's took over Twitter. Maybe we might see a little bit of common sense prevail, and you know, something happen, but I doubt it very much. We're stuck with this, aren't we? Unfortunately, on our timeline.
It does sometimes become difficult to have even a reasoned conversation when some people are so absolutely diametrically opposed and dug into the sand and entrenched in a line of thinking, and use rather despicable line of attack. And I could mention a few tweets aimed at me in the last few weeks and us as a group in the last few weeks. And usually I let stuff go and let it run off my back, to be honest with you. I can't be arsed with stuff like that. I'm too old and I've been called worse by much better people.
Likewise.
And so, you know, it is one of those things. When it comes to Miguel Delaney and some of the journalists, we're back to this sort of murky, entrenched world of geopolitics and where are people getting the information from, which accounts are actually state actors in themselves and are stirring the pot one way, and then there's some on the other side that stir the pot back the other way. And it's kind of backed off with the way things have calmed down in the Middle East in relationships between the various countries. I'd love to know where Miguel Delaney gets his examples of the Abu Dhabi having a worse human rights record since the takeover of Man City, because living in the UAE, I can tell you it's very, very different over the last 10 years. And frankly, if he's looking at things, for example, I know they did shut down a lot of terrorist cells here, and terrorism is an executionable offence here. And so therefore, is he talking about that? Well, if you're going to single that out, that's the laws of the land. That's how they deal with terrorists here. We've got no control over that, and that's not necessarily a human rights issue. There's plenty of places in the world that have death rows that own football clubs in the Premier League. So that's a very difficult argument to bring up with human rights. All I say is better conditions for workers in general here. They've introduced for the construction workers, they've introduced during the summer months a midday break where they're not allowed to work during the absolutely massive glaring heat of the sun, and it's reduced risk and it's reduced accidents on building sites and all sorts. You know, so to say there's worse human rights records here is quite amusing to me, because that's factually incorrect if you ask me. But this is the problem: we get into these areas and get dragged into these arguments when all we really want to do is just support a bloody football club and enjoy it, and it sort of saps some of the joy away, doesn't it? You know, but I think where we're coming from on things like this, what we'll have to do is just try and engage civilly at all times. And when we've got a point to make it firmly and fairly and with facts and not with abuse. And don't stoop to that level. And I think as a fan base, we're learning very well to react and how not to react at times. And I'm very proud of us for that as a group. You know, I think there's still a lot of things to work on. Things like I'm seeing people having a go, new fans, Johnny come latelys again. It's just like the Keegan era all over again. Well, if you're going to do that, you know what? That's the price on the ticket of success, particularly in this day and age, and particularly in this region where everybody wants to jump on a winning horse. And so, you know, I think it's there to be embraced and enjoyed and shaped and nudge people in the right direction. And then culturally, are we not then in a position to nudge the Middle East in a different direction if they want to go there? Because we can be a good reference point. Look at how our city has changed. Look at how our crowd has changed in the time I've stood on the terraces. Do you ever think when we were kids we'd talk about somebody like Shola Amiobi as a black number 9 for Newcastle United? Nah. We know what the last black number 9 for Newcastle United got off his own fans. And so there's an example of how we as a fan base in a city have grown up and become inclusive and welcoming and, you know, much more aware of our place in the globe. And so if we can sort of help shape that fan base to come along and be as open and as welcoming, it's got to be a good thing, really, for me, you know. But it's all very difficult once you get onto social media, because there's still a lot of stuff goes on that generally, once you start scratching the surface and dig down a little bit through it, it gets a bit scary about, you know, who's manipulating what and who's putting disinformation and information out. And after this weekend, all the focus is going to be on Qatar, and it's going to get murkier. And I think having a little pop at Newcastle United in Saudi Arabia can be used as a nice little distraction from that, while we're still running talking Premier League. I think that's going to disappear in the next 2 weeks as the whole world starts to focus on the World Cup and what's going on in Qatar. And so let's be aware of people trying to stir the pot, is my message to everyone, because I think it's going to happen.
Yeah, definitely is. Alan Little goes there. Was cracking attending my first match for 2 years the other night. But what's happened to the benches? The paddock, the peanut sellers, And the bloke that dressed up in a black and white suit, he says, where's Lord Westwood? Absolutely brilliant. And Clubber Lang, he's in the chat again. I do miss this guy when he's not on, to be honest. He goes, yeah, just been out walking the dog and I tripped and fell over a bra. Must have been a booby trap.
Oh my God. Hold on a minute. We're only 15 minutes in, man. How weird.
It's a Friday show, though. Steve, your views on all of this? We've spoken about this many times, but it's I concentrate more, I guess, on the Miguel conversation. I know you'll have had a bit of time to watch that with interest with Keith. What did you think?
Yeah, well, it was a fascinating spat. It was from what I kept dipping in and out of, because as Keith said, it went on for about 4 days, 4 hours. It was just one of those things. I mean, I think you get embroiled into a conversation, and then as both the lads have said, you know, other people join in. It then tends to go off on a tangent somewhat. You get embroiled in a certain aspect that perhaps had nothing to do with the original purpose of being together and talking. I thought both handle it quite well. I mean, they've laid out their stall, if you like. I'm just glad I'm not a PSG supporter, as Mitch says, because in the next fortnight, it's all gonna land on the doorstep of Qatar, and the PSG fans will be the ones who will be getting it in the neck. But you know what? It's refreshing to be able to have a conversation, to watch a conversation that's done civilly and politely. And it's annoying when people attack your own sort of opinion because they're diametrically opposed to it, and they do it in an angry and vociferous way. As I say, it's just refreshing to hear sensible dialogue. And I think this is something that we've found very, very difficult over the last sort of 3 or 4 years, because people, as soon as you open your mouth, people want to attack you. People want to put words into your mouth. People want to construct a totally different narrative to the one that you're trying to get over at times. It becomes frustrating. It becomes annoying. It becomes a drag, you know, and
it can get you down.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Of course it can.
I know you've been through it. I know pre matters. I went through it. Holly went through it on here. I know Joe's been through it on here as well, once or twice, where he feels he gets involved and likes to stick up for us, and ends up getting dragged into it. Mearnsey got it in the neck, I think, when he was a regular on the show as well. It happens. It happens, and we're all human. We've all got a breaking point, and depending on what's going on in your life, I guess dictates how it actually affects you.
Yeah, but it's fascinating that it's not a load of Sunderland supporters having a go at you, or a load of Man United, or a load of Chelsea or Man City. It's when it's people from your own city who support your own club. And we're all Newcastle fans, and they're still having a go, and so you've got to question why do people? Is it just because they're keen for an argument, or what? I don't know, but we've got a big game coming up on Saturday night. We're all looking forward to it. It's going to be the last game that we're going to have for 6 weeks till we're back in the cup, and it kind of deflects from it somewhat, because we're all excited about the game, and then you get drawn into all sorts of crazy arguments and discussions, and I'm surprised at Alan, because you never mentioned the popular side. Whatever happened?
Look, last thing on this whole thing, because we do discuss it, but I felt it need mentioning tonight, because people would have been asking, what about this? What about that? For me, I've said it many times on here. If you're directly affected by anything like that on social media, give yourself a break from it. Walk away. Don't get involved. Don't forget, anything you put on social media is out there for the duration of your life on your social media platform. Even if you delete it, somebody somewhere will screenshot it and will keep it and will use it against you at some point. So be a bit more responsible on social media. Don't get dragged into arguments. And if you're a supporter of NUFC Matters, we appreciate you sticking up for us, but we're all big lads. Don't feel like you've got to get involved. Okay? We've been through this. We've been through this many, many times. We're all experienced at it. Keith's grown a second skin since he joined this platform. Me, Mitch, and Steve will remember the days of skunkers and stuff like that. And, you know, I used to get a bit of grief on there. There's Needle giggling away. But yeah, look, for me personally, I don't give a monkeys, and I'm target number one. I don't give a monkeys. I don't have sleepless nights. I'm like, Keith, you just crack on. You know, you go and do what you do during the day. And I don't sit on my phone all day. Some people may do, but if you get involved, if it gets you down, switch your social media off. And a lot of the people who watch the show come from the age of why don't you on TV? Do you remember the song at the start? Don't switch on your television set and go and do something less boring instead. That's what you need to do with your phone these days. Stick your phone down, switch it off, or come off social media, because you don't need it. And you're pampering to these fools, these idiots, these people with no life. You've got a life, go and live it. That's what I would say. Okay.
Just a quick on that, Steve, before, like, when people compare, like Steve Hasty just said, we're talking to people who are from our own city. So you've got to measure that, because this bloke's not from our city. He's a constant, like, thorn in Newcastle side. And I didn't go in there to throw abuse at him, because that would last minutes and you'd get blocked. What I do is why is it you can't write an article about Eddie Howe and Eddie Howe's first year at the club without mentioning sports washing? You know, what is it? Do you not think some of your readership would rather have an unbiased article written? So I was trying to reason with that side. When you put someone on the screen like that saying somebody hopes to die before we win the title, I just look at that and think, well, you're gonna have to hurry up. You're gonna have to hurry up, because it'll not be long before we win the title the way we're going. So I don't take that serious. I just think his father will be horrible and his granddad will be awful. And I think kids are the parents. I think that's why Mitch is a canny lad, because George is mint. But when you look at people like him that post stuff on that, I hope Keith Patterson dies before we win a title. That doesn't bother me. And if people do go on social media and that thing bothers them, then Steve Wraith's bang on. You need to get off and you need to get out of the firing line. But I when I see stuff like that, I just think, how the hell do I bother him that much? Because, you know, I just mind my own business for 99% of the time. But it's you know, I think social media, and I think Twitter's changing. I think all this, you know, signed this thing. You've got one, Steve, Mr. Wraith. You've got some blue badge next to your name and that, and I think you have to pay for it now, do you?
No.
Yep.
As an actor, as somebody who's got a good IMDb, I've got. I just applied for it. I applied for mine a few years back, and it's if I guess it's just if they go through your file and say that person is worthy of having one. It's not like a token of importance. It's literally just. Yeah. I think it must have something. I've never looked into it. It must be something to do with the algorithm.
What it is, Elon Musk is now going to charge you £8 for your blue tick, and if you don't pay £8, you lose the blue tick, and somebody else can come along and become Steve Wraith with a blue tick. That's what's happening now.
£8 a month, is it?
£8 a month, yeah.
Right, £8, £96 a year, yeah.
Yeah, it's bonkers. I mean, so, you know, you will see.
It is all changing, isn't it? But
you will see somebody go out and try and do that. You know, that's the kind of thing that happens on social media. Unfortunately, that's just what happens. You know, but you can't do anything about it, guys. You just got to live. You know, you just got to live your life and just crack on with it. But we're going to move on. And lots of people, Mitch, in the chat tonight, saying that there's air stewardesses been spotted getting pictures taken at St James's Park and on the quayside. Any news on potential sponsors?
I got arrested last time that happened. No, look, I've seen the pictures. I've seen a couple of videos as well. I've seen the lads and lasses from Saudi Air in a uniform at the ground on the Millennium Bridge, I think, as well. I've seen one. And I've seen pitch side hoardings with Fly Saudi Air on them as well. So there's obviously some sort of sponsorship deal incoming. Whether they're doing the photo shoot ahead of time for next season, or whether that's something that's going to kick in now, don't know. Significant move though, because that's potentially a lot of money for the balance in the FFP books, isn't it, everyone?
It is.
Yeah, I mean, it'll come, won't it, Keith? It'll come. A big sponsor will come.
Wouldn't surprise me tomorrow. Wouldn't surprise me tomorrow if we turn up and that Saudi Air, Fly Saudi is all around. You know, I've seen them. It's on the it's around the pitch now. So all the pitch is covered in it. There's definitely been a photograph shoot, but it wouldn't surprise me if they were there tomorrow. And a big game like Chelsea, last one before the World Cup, it just went like that. It just says, right, there's our first sponsor. And why shouldn't they? Why should they do that? Because if you're trying to block a club by inserting FFP, which is just there to try and stop us catching the cartel, why shouldn't you just be able to go and bring your advertisers in? And if we go to the Chelsea game tomorrow, it's got Fly Saudi and Saudi, I'll love it. I'll just think, bring it on. Bring it on. Why shouldn't this club, for once, climb and be as big as it can be? And I highlight some of this. I was on a show this week that Steve Wraith was on. I don't know what you like bringing it. I think it was Joe's show, but I think Joe's missing. And I put a point on there with you, Steve, and I said, like, when we sometimes judge some of our fans say about being patient, I just think, this season, how are we going to finish? Because we might finish higher than third. Because, and the point I make is you've got like Pope, Trippier, Shah, Wilson, Almiron, 28, 30 and 32s, all them. They're all at the age where they're not going to be at the next World Cup. So they're all at the age where they need to win the league in the next couple of years because this is their time. So who's to say they won't? And who's to say their standards aren't going to be, we don't want to finish fourth, we want to finish second, or we want to win the title this year. And yeah, it's a long shot. But I tell you what, I bet every game they play like they want to win the title. And for that, as Mitch points out, you need money. You need 2 or 3 proper signings in January, and you need 5 signings in the summer. And you put 7 signings, proper players in that squad, then you've got the depth. I'll tell you what, I went to Tottenham, I've been Man United, Tottenham, Liverpool, they're no different to us. There might be still a gap between City, but there wasn't for 45 or 60 minutes at home. So my opinion is, I think these players will set the standard. I think these players will determine how well we're going to do. And yeah, if I was putting a bet on and somebody give us £1 million to put on red or black, and you can either put top 4 or outside the top 4, I'd put top 4 for this season.
Okay, I'm going to go into one of our first segments. It's the day I met. The day I met, when I asked you to send in photographs of you meeting famous faces from the Toon. This one was a nice one that we got sent on Twitter. Wow. It was Sally Cinnamon, and this is the only one we've got today. My lad yesterday after the game with Dan Byrne. Thank you for sending this, Paul. And he's going through a little bit of a tough time, the young lad. And we hate to see that. We'll talk about online problems that we have, but it's not nice when kids go through issues at that age. And good luck to your son. Keep on being you, and keep on sticking in at school. Most importantly, keep on supporting the Toon. It'll give you a lot of happiness. Might give you a few bumps, but it'll give you no bruises. And you keep smiling, keep listening to your mum and dad, keep listening to your teachers. And thank you, Sally Cinnamon, for sending in that photo. Anyone's got any photographs of you with Newcastle United players, managers, or past players or managers, send them in and we will feature them on the show. Somebody in the chat asking if there's going to be a Christmas party. We'll always have a get-together, mate. It won't be a party as such, but as soon as I know what Mitch is doing and Stu Penman and when they're coming or if they're coming, I will be able to give you a little bit more of an update.
I think I can tell you now. I can tell you now, mate. But no, I know Stu's in Mauritius for Christmas.
Right, okay. And what about you?
Lovely lady wife. I'm going to be here in Dubai by the looks of it.
Okay, so we can organise it without the lads, but me, Keith, Steve, and a few of the faces, I'm sure we'll have a bit of a get-together, Barry, so I will keep you posted and let you know what we are going to do and go from there. Okay, moving on to football. Let's, and again, apologies, people will be expecting the Eddie Howe press conference. Just about to finish the second week of filming on the film that I'm making. I haven't got time for that, I'm afraid. And next week, with the exception of maybe Tuesday night, there'll be no live shows. All the pre-records will be going up next week. That's my last week of filming, and then it's normal service resumed after that. So if you're in the chat and you're a moderator and you pop on next week, please let people know that A, it's not live, B, we are going to be doing lives again, but it'll not be until the start of the following week. Maybe I'll squeeze some in next weekend, but once I've finished the filming, I'll be back. But you'll still have NUFC Matters every night next week. I've recorded some great shows, and they're all set up for 6 o'clock. Let's talk football, lads. We've got a hell of a lot to talk about. David Cook, I'm going to come to your question first before I look at what's going on. With the club at the moment. David Cook asked this a few times, and I keep missing it. And it's one of those things when the chat moves fast on a Friday. He says, I just want to ask the lads about the current atmosphere compared to the entertainers and Sir Bobby days. What he was trying to say was, do you think this is the best atmosphere at St James's Park? Now, I said no when I was asked this question by David on a different show, but he wanted you lads to answer the question. I think the entertainers was the best days. For me personally, the Bobby Robson days didn't really eclipse it for me. Certain games might have done, like whacking Sheffield Wednesday 8-1 and Shearer getting 5, but I just feel that the Keegan entertainers days were special. I still, when I go to the match at the moment, have that little bit of doubt, and I stress a little bit of doubt when we don't go into a 2-goal lead in the first half. Man City, for example, at home, go into usually the half-time period, 2 goals up or 3 goals up. Like, that was a bit like the entertainers. They'd go and marmalise a team for the first 20 minutes and get such a command and lead and then dictate the rest of the game. So I just think the atmosphere was better in the entertainers' days. War Flags do a great job. And the reason I think as well is that, I don't know, it has changed. It's a different crowd now, different generations. And I don't know. It's a bit like if you ask us which was the favourite World Cup, people would expect you to say, well, the one we nearly won. But no, for me, or the one we won in 66, but I wasn't alive. 1990 was my World Cup. That's my favourite World Cup. Nothing's ever beaten that team, that passion and that feeling, even as hard as I've tried. So it is a difficult question. There's my answers, Mitch. What about you?
Well, you've nailed it with one thing. We are genuinely now comparing football across eras, which is always a difficult thing to do, be that with teams, players, managers, or tournaments. I wrote an article for Arab News, not last Christmas, but the Christmas before, just after the takeover had gone through, when I came back, when we played Man United and we drew 1-1. And it was odd because that was the closest I'd felt to an atmosphere like the entertainers, because of the buoyancy and the return of expectancy and hope was palpable. As somebody who'd been out the region and come back, you could feel it. You're right, it's a different crowd. It's a different era. Standing on the Gallagher, there was no real need for War Flags. I think the era we have now, what War Flags has done for me is get people off their bloody phones. For the right reason, using them as cameras, maybe to take the spectacle, but they're still involved. They're there in the moment. They're not partially in the moment or not in the moment at all. And I think it's a very different atmosphere because we're talking about different eras. For me, it'll take a long time before we get close to that feeling when the first season or the second season under Keegan, when we went unbeaten at the start of the season, that was just organic delight from everyone. And we rode that wave all the way to the season's end. And I think it is different at the moment. And again, you've got to factor in, we're going to have slight differences in the fan base going forward. We're going to have You know, moments like Liverpool where you go to a ground and you hear Scandinavian accents more than you do the local accent and things like that. It's all going to happen. So get ready for it, folks, and embrace it, because it means we're doing well. I'm impressed with how the atmosphere transfers. If you look at what the guys who set up the new supporters club here in Dubai, that I'm genuinely, people say to me, well done, and to be honest with you, all I've done is used me gobshite to read the direct traffic there. I'm in a good position through this platform and through my Twitter platform to say to people, right, look, these guys have put something together, let's try and back it. And if you look at some of the videos from the days we're having at the minute, it's electric. And it's different to some of the other supporters clubs. I know the Leeds lads very well because I drink in the same bars with them very often. And can be a bit macey, and it's mainly just blokes in a bar shouting at the telly. Whereas our lot, we've got flags, we've got families, we've got kids running around, we've got women, we've got, you know, a full cross-section of the Newcastle community in Dubai. And that's us feeding off the team. And I think that's, for me, is the final piece of the puzzle that they've needed to get together, is to generate that club, city, community synergy, but you're now generating it across the globe. If you look at how the supporters clubs are doing around the world, I've had a chat with the lads in Singapore, I've had a chat with some of the lads in Australia, I've had a chat with the lads in San Diego, you know, and thanks for the T-shirt, by the way, the San Diego mags. I'll have to get that on one of the shows one night. You know, makes a big bloody difference. And now I just don't feel connected to home. I feel connected around the world. And that's different. That's not how I felt. And nor do I think I had a real appreciation of the expat community until I became expat myself. And I think I value it more. I wish when I was chair of the trust I'd valued it more, and utilised it more. And so, you know, you live and learn and all that every day. But it's just fabulous to have that atmosphere to play with because of what Eddie Howe's done with that team. It's not just all about the money. It's about Eddie Howe and the squad and everything that's going on behind the scenes.
Yeah, I would agree. The other point I made the other night, somebody's just brought it up in the chat there, Steve, is the Keegan effect. And I guess being of that certain vintage that we all are, we were lucky enough to see Keegan as a player and then Keegan as a manager. And it was the fact that Newcastle had sunk so low, almost going into that division that Sunderland made it into. You know, and he got us out. He got us away from that. You know, virtually at the last death against Leicester. I think that's what made it more special, because he was then signing players and telling everybody that ultimately, you know, we're gonna get. He's gonna make them England players. We're gonna win the league, and you know they bought into it. We bought into it. I think that's what made it more special.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the thing with Keegan, it was the romance. It was there was something I could never put my finger on why we embraced Kevin Keegan in the way that we did as fans, when he was a guy who had basically knocked us in all our hopes and dreams back in '74. Scored 2 goals against us in the cup final. 8 years later, he's turning up in a black and white shirt, and we're rejoicing. We've got a guy who was the England captain, no ties to the area as such, although we subsequently found out that he had family ties down in Durham. But he came with a plan and a mission, and you know it took 2 seasons to that plan to actually bear fruit. And he promised he would get us out of that division, and he did. And then 8 years later, when he returned, what was really our, you know, I was going to say hour of need. It was minutes. We were minutes away, really, at times from absolute disaster. And he came.
I think for 19 minutes of that Leicester game, we were down. I think.
Yeah. And he built something. We got the hope back. And then we built. He went out and said, "You know what? Now I've got you out of the league. We're going to get you out of the league." And we thought, "What? That season, as you say, that promotion season, 92-93, which was the first season of the Premier League as well, and we weren't in it. And there was something to aspire to. And he was telling us, "We've got to get into this league. I'm going to get you into it." And he did. And then the roller coaster that then transpired, and you know, being the club that's signed the most expensive footballer in the world, Alan Shearer, bringing a young lad back to his hometown club, his roots, everything about it, the whole buzz that it gave you. And somebody put up there before on the strap line that the ground was different. Yes, it was. Only 36,000 in that ground. You know, that it was eventually it was all wrapped around, and you know, it was kind of enclosed, and it became a hotbed, didn't it? There was something about those nights when, you know, you played Barcelona and at Dalglish and the European games. It was special, but that entertainers period, that 94 with the guy who I felt was probably the best footballer we've ever had in Peter Beardsley. We had Rob Lee, you know. Then we got Ferdinand. Then we got Shearer. We had a blend of youth and experience. You know, we had Peacock at the back. We had Beresford. We had players like Hottiger who came. You know, there was something special. Then Ginola arrives. And then Aspria arrives. It was just like they were just throwing players, quality players at us. You know, and we were taking on all comers, and that was all part of it. And I think because of where we'd come from, that probably made the atmosphere so special. And it's difficult now, as Mitch says, to compare an apple and a pear, compare the 52,000 to the 38,000 that we had. The style of football, the way that the game has changed and evolved, the way that the game's played, even, you know, that Keegan played with panache, or Keegan's teams did, and they played with a freedom. Eddie Howe's teams is playing really, really well. I don't think it's playing with a freedom. It's playing to a style that he's developed and he's nurturing and gradually building. And that's what's making this exciting as well, this era. And you're right about the flags. You know, we during the first Keegan and then coming back Keegan, you had the scarves, you had the atmosphere, you had the songs. We don't have that as much. What we do have is noise. We generate a great noise when that train starts to move forward. The noise that we push behind, as the teams on the attack. I mean, it's phenomenal. It's deafening at times, and then everybody's up for it. So I think it's difficult to compare a player from an era, and it's probably difficult to compare an atmosphere from an era. But if I was going to have to pick one or t'other, then at the moment it's the Keegan, the entertainers period for me.
Yeah. Keith, what's your take on this? It's an interesting question from David.
Yeah. Going back to what you said, Steve, you said sometimes when I go at the ground, sort of a bit twitchy until, early doors in case we concede. And I can get where that comes from, which I'll come on to in a minute. But when I look at this team now, I think we underestimate how little time they've had to build. So I think when you compare a team like this to a team of the Entertainers, in that day, the Entertainers went and signed the Harry Kane kind of signings. That Entertainers side picked up the best centre forwards in the country and some of the best midfield players. So when you looked at Beardsley, Ginola, Ferdinand, Shearer, Cole, that whole group of players, we had some phenomenal footballers, and that was more or less the finished article. That squad was supposed to win the league. When you talk about this team, I get less nervous watching this team in the defence. When I watch this team, and you've got to remember, Eddie Howe lost his job at Bournemouth because he couldn't defend. Eddie Howe goes away and studies it, and now has the best defence in the Premiership. And when this team plays, when a ball comes into our back door, I expect to get knocked out. And I don't panic about the defence in this team as much as I do the Entertainers. When we look,
one of the things I was going to say is I've never felt so comfortable watching Newcastle United side at 1-0.
Yeah,
ever.
Yeah, but I agree with that. And when we out of possession, I've got more faith in this team than the Entertainers for them winning the ball back. So I think this team have greater turnovers and getting the ball back than the Entertainers did. But what the Entertainers did better than anybody was attack. And so my answer to the question is about the atmosphere. The flags are spectacular. There's nobody can say that. And I pulled somebody who was a Villa supporter, and I just said to him, let us know on Monday what you thought about it. And he's a bright lad. He has his own business. He goes to games home and away. And he says, yeah, it was good. But he used the word, he said, it's manufactured. And he says, that's not you lot. Go and decide what flag you. And he says, it looks bought in. And I just said, I never thought of that. I never thought of his point. But what he was saying was, all them flags are rolled out. But the big thing he said, when the whistle blows and the game starts and you all scream and shout and it kicks off, then them flags get put away, more or less. You know what I mean? That big effort to create that atmosphere once the game starts isn't as impactful as the game. And that's not down to flags or down to fans. It's down to nervousness, because this team's getting better and better and better, and we get ourselves to third in the league. And when we do, we're expecting more. So the expectancy levels have risen. So when we play Chelsea tomorrow, where if you went the entertainers' years and you watch us play Chelsea, it would be singing all the time. That's all you would hear is singing. And now there's quiet patches. And when we played Villa, they sang, they took the mickey about the atmosphere, and they criticised. They said we were quiet. But the reality is, that's the penalty you pay when you become a better football team, because you get nervous because you expect to score and expect to do well. So 52,000 there on the cup match of the night. So some kids' only chances of getting in that ground. Nobody can say that it was riveting atmosphere, singing from minute to minute, because everybody was expecting Newcastle to get some goals scored. And when it was 0-0, for all that period, people are on the edge of the seat. They're thinking one goal the other way and this goes against us. So I think expectancy creates quietness. So, and when you go back to the two eras, I have to say that the atmosphere at the entertainers, the word is spontaneous. It was, when we were there, Steve, you say you still go back to that. Even if you weren't up for it, the place was bouncing, and it was just a complete din and a racket, and there was just song after song after song after song bellowing out. And I think that's because the entertainers was a finished product. I think these people, if we've got 2 players in January and 3 top players in the summer, we'd probably be having the kind of squad the entertainers have. We put 5 quality players in that squad now. We probably have, 4 good people on the bench. At the minute, I just think we've been a bit. It's hard to compare these. They've had a year at it, and they've just avoided relegation, and they've got themselves to 3rd place. But I'll tell you what, defensively, I think these are better than the entertainers. Atmosphere-wise, I think it was better then.
It's funny you should say that, though, Keith, because in that season, 96-97, when we finished second, we actually conceded less goals than Man United. We conceded 40 and they conceded 44.
Well, we never out there. Steve, we never out there half.
Yeah, that's true, yeah. But so we did. It was all Keegan's. I know that we only had Keegan for half that season, but it was always a thing that people said Keegan's teams couldn't defend. But in that particular season, we conceded less goals than Man United did. Sadly, they won the.
I just want to jump quickly to this because it'll get lost in the chat. First of all, Mark Fleming, thanks for becoming a member and thanks for the donation. I'll stick that in the pot for the Christmas drinks with the lads. Jacob Oz says, our chant, why are supporters singing "Don't Take Me Home, want to stay here and sniff all the gear"? And also, why is it "Hey Callum Wilson" and not "Hey Wilson"? I'm not going to answer on the second one, but the first one, mate, is just we've spoke about it on here, Jacob. Before there's an epidemic of cocaine taking football supporters the length and breadth of the country, and we have a minority who are the same, mate. And that's the reason that song is in there. It's a reflection on modern day football supporters, I'm afraid. That's just the way it is. Nothing we can do about it. And Simon, I did see this as well. He says, yes, Steve, I always wondered if you saw the comments on Skunkers. It was like the internet forum equivalent of Beirut on Skunkers. Simon, I did used to watch it. And I wish I could remember what my name was on there, because I was incommunicado on there, and I rarely commented, but I did keep an eye on it. I've also done the same in the past on the Ready to Go forum, the Sunderland forum. But I haven't got time to do that anymore. But that's still going. And if you go on to Ready to Go, which is the Sunderland forum, there's always a thread about me. which is interesting to say the least. But yeah, Simon, I did. And Skunkers was a lot of laughs, and you're right, it exactly was, just as you've described. Okay, David, I hope I gave you the answer you wanted to your question.
I think the Callum isn't the Callum Wilson one just about syllables, because it was here Alan Shearer. And now it's Callum Wilson. It's just syllables.
But the Young'uns have changed the Newcastle song as well. The We Hate Nottingham Forest song's been adapted and changed. You know what I mean? And
that's
some people
disgraceful. I'm not having that.
It has. It's just we hate Nottingham Forest. We hate Liverpool too, and Leicester. We hate Man United and Leeds. We love you. And the rest. It's been changed, and the Young'uns do change things, but that's progression. That's the way it's the way it is. Unfortunately, we can't change it. We're just well, it is. We're just 4 old farts who are stuck in a time warp, unfortunately. So there's nothing we can do about that. Okay, tweet of the week. Thanks to everyone who sent these in. Big thanks, as always, to Zara, who gets the ones that everybody else misses. Frank, Big Chipper, he says, I impersonated Toon Poles for a few hours this morning, and I've just returned home to find this on my front door and a warning letter from him. Lesson learned, it won't happen again. The Big Frank Chipper is a character on there. I've got to be perfect.
He nearly got me twice this week.
Yeah, he's a funny bugger. He is a funny bugger, whoever he is. When she says, oops, I hit a curb, but you heard a human scream. Apologies to all female drivers. I am not being sexist with that particular one, but I did find it, just because it's that bloody face again. Miggy Stardust, we could be heroes just for one day. Like that a lot.
That's nice.
I did like that one. Very, very good. 80s kids, if your dad wore shoes like this when you were growing up, you have siblings you have never met. Mitch still wears them today on a night out.
You should see strutting down Sheikh Mohammed bin Zayed Boulevard.
Exactly. Anyone who hasn't got a life will know that I'm a Celebrity started. I've caught up now. I've watched it all. Breaking news. Reports are coming in that Boy George has been attacked by a reptile on the set of I'm a Celebrity. They should have got a karma chameleon, but apparently they come and go.
Right, that explains something, you see. Our Robin was going on about Boy George in one of the family group chats that I'm on.
Yeah,
and I didn't understand why right, I'm totally
with Matt Hancock.
Well, I know about him, but I didn't know Boy George was in there.
Boy George is in there as well. Yeah, it is good. I mean, Keith's pals with Ant and Deck, or one of them, and honestly, it is just worth watching for them because they script it, and the script is brilliant.
Hilarious. The ad lib on them, it was brilliant.
They're brilliant. Lee Johnson, thanks for this. Kevin and Terry came to save Newcastle from disaster. This was doing the rounds. Alan Shearer got involved as well. As we know, Terry's got his health battles at the moment as well. But it was great to see the two of them back together again. And sending me love to Terry and his family. This one, Adam Sim, the Mackham there, saying, imagine not keeping a clean sheet against Southampton and laughing. It's just a nice little reminder from Lee that the last time Sunderland played Southampton, they got beat 8-0. This one, really looking forward to Liverpool being bought out by the Bellagraph Nova group. God, that seems like a lifetime ago. Do you remember that photo doing the rounds?
Absolutely.
Was that Michael Chopra?
Yeah.
Yes.
That's what it was. Okay, Carol Lawson, thanks for this one. Coronation Street viewers will recognise Gail Platt there instead of ET. Obviously, that's the rest of the people who were the cast members of ET. Here's Wetherspoons. Looks like rain. No way. Sunny today.
Oh,
Jesus, that's straight out of this. That
it is. Big shout out to everybody in Wetherspoons who's watching tonight, according to somebody in the chat earlier on. Current status of Toon fans. A few nosebleeds in there as well, where we're sitting at the minute, it has to be said. Just got me results from Ancestry.com. Apparently, I'm full English.
very good.
Jesus.
Very good. That's sailing close to the wind. That there was nothing intended by it though. I was that pissed last night. I thought this was a can of Stella.
That's a good one.
Easy mistake to make, that Ian. Easy mistake to make.
It is.
It is. This caused some debate. Who's having what? Chips
God.
and curry for me, said Wayne Bennett. This takes me back to the days of Holly on this channel, where we used to do Rate My Plate. Chips and curry, I'd eat that. Chips and gravy, I'd eat that. Chips and cheese, no, not at all, just because of the fact that it's a Mackem dish and it looks bloody awful. Chips and mushy peas, yeah, but it has to have tomato sauce for me. Chips and mayo, nah, I've never really been a fan of that. Chips and beans, once or twice, but not for me. We'll go around the board. You got a particular favourite there, Mitch, or one that you wouldn't have?
Chips and curry, yes. Chips and gravy, if I'm in the right fettle. Mm-hmm. Cheese and chips, no, but I would have gravy with cheese curds, which is Canadian poutine. That's quite a nice departure from your usual. Mm-hmm. Chips and peas, as long as the peas have got mint in them, not ketchup. Jesus. Chips and mayo, but not with English chips, but with continental frites. That works.
Right, okay.
I'm being very specific. And chips and beans, absolutely a cut, because baked beans are the devil's invention.
Make you fart. Okay, Steve.
They're the devil's invention.
They are.
The beans, I would have the beans and chips if you put ketchup on it. Definitely not the chips and mayo. Definitely not the cheese. The chips and peas, only if there's fish there. Chips and curry, yeah, not a problem. Chips and gravy, certainly not.
Interesting. Keith?
First choice, chips and curry. Love curry and chips. Second choice, chips and beans. I love beans and chips, they're mint. And I would eat the chips and gravy at the right time. The rest, I'm with Steve Hasty. They have to put a fish on them peas. And I wouldn't go near the mayo for me nana, and I wouldn't go near the cheese for me dog.
Cheesy chips. Nah. Well, that was good. I knew that would cause a bit of debate. So thanks for sending that one in. The well-loved tales. Jack pisses off Willem Dafoe. Ian, you come up with some belters. I don't know where on earth you get all of these from. There's some absolute corkers. This one as well from Ian for sale. Vintage Tupperware, foot bath, meat defroster, puke bucket, potato salad, and popcorn bowl.
Yes.
When I was at uni and we lived in the halls in Castellazes, one of the lads had a bowl like that.
Yeah.
That it was a utilitarian bowl. And I remember he used to keep it to pee in, puke in, whatever. And then he handed it around with a load of popcorn in when he decided to have a film. And nobody went anywhere near it. We're like, no!
Oh, my God. Right, okay. Moving on swiftly. This one. Hi, everyone. I'm Andy's mother's toy. That was, I think that's funny in a whole, but Stephen Kennedy sent that on Facebook because he said it's Keith getting in on the act again. Rather odd looking Keith. But, I think he put that in for the lookalike section. 14 miles, Dad. We're only 14 miles. If you drove another 14 miles, I would have been born a Geordie.
That's good. That's good.
And this one, E-I-E-I-E-I-O. That was very good. Any Countdown fans out there? And this one was quite funny as well. He says, who the hell is this? A joke. It's definitely not Wilson. Now that guy at the bottom there, the bald guy, is supposed to be Callum Wilson. And was that the Chronicles website? Or was it on Sky? I think it might have been on Sky. Yeah, how on earth they've confused that during the Southampton game? Nobody knows who it is. I could, facial recognition wouldn't sort that one out. Jimmy Moore likes to send a tweet of the weekend as well. He says, is there anything more ironic than Richard wanting to talk about boundaries? Man United may be losing 2-0 to Aston Villa, Andy, but the big story of the day is Mikel Arteta has yet again stood out of his technical area. It's kind of rubbish to talk about on these things as well. I did see this and I've chopped half of it off, but I did find this funny. And if you can see on that packet, it says BITCH to the untrained eye. But actually, it was part of a story on Facebook. So this person got this order and the thought that it said bitch on there. She says, I went back to the restaurant. I went inside already fuming. I asked to speak to the manager and then threw the sandwich on the counter. I asked him for an explanation. He looked confused. So I pointed at the writing on the sandwich and demanded that he tells me why someone felt the need to write that on my sandwich. And he answered, because you ordered a BLT with cheese. When I replied, okay, and walked out.
Quality that.
Oh my God. I just like this. When people do know Greg's, I love a Greg's myself, like any true Geordie does, and that is excellent. A birthday cake. Some great cakes these days, really is. This one from Jimmy. He's just bought a log cabin from IKEA. Good luck putting that up at the weekend, Jimmy. DMAO. And this one, we've had a couple of these, haven't we? In Manchester.
I'm confused.
Now, do you remember that we had the Manchester United Man City derby the other week, where as soon as the one team took the lead, the kid from the Far East had changed his top to the other team. So this guy's got a Man City bag and a Manchester United top. Unbelievable.
You genuinely see that over here. I've seen somebody disappear at the toilet at half time and come back with a different shirt on.
That's bonkers. I just cannot understand. You'd never see that up here. The only thing Nick Pope hasn't saved is the whale. To be fair, it's only November. This one from Deck the Halls. Soonest doing backflips to not give Newcastle any credit for literally any of the 4 goals we scored. Yeah, anybody who recorded the game or was sitting watching that live on Sky, he just bloody hates us. Like, I don't know why they get him on as the Newcastle correspondent. He can't stand it when we get a result. He hates where we are. I reckon 3 more wins and we're safe, said James.
Yes, very good.
Some people have still got that mentality, mind. It's being an athlete. It's what it's the whole syndrome that
Stockholm syndrome.
That's the one. Mad Geordie says nobody does away days like Newcastle. 10 p.m. meet at the Boozer for our bus. Meet on a Saturday night for a 2 p.m. kick-off away to Southampton on a Sunday. Lock in until the bus departs at 2 a.m. Should get down there about 10, 11 a.m. and be early hours Monday morning when we get home. Heavy sesh, yeah. A lot of people on Fez's bus, I think, will have gone through that. Southampton would like to express its sincere thanks to Ralph for all of his efforts as well as the unwavering commitment he's shown throughout the time as manager. Connor replied, "I see you later, pal." Another moaning gone. So yeah, that was good way of saying goodbye to Ralph. Me on Sunday, never again. Me on Friday, agains, said Toxic King. I think everybody goes through that, especially as you get older. Shane, I love this one. Shane used to do the match day lives during lockdown. Small club, Man City before the takeover, 2 league titles, 3 FA Cups. Chelsea before the takeover, 1 league title, 3 FA Cups. Newcastle before either Man City, Chelsea or Newcastle were taken over, 4 league titles, 6 FA Cups. Facts. Very good, that. Enjoyed that one. Coming down to the last couple, Paddy Power do it again, said Rachel. I'm not saying I hope Brazil crash out of the World Cup in humiliating circumstances for leaving Joe Litton out of their squad, but yeah, I think we'll all be supporting Brazil because I don't think England will win it. Come back to Hornets, but I can't see England doing it. I think Brazil will be there or thereabouts, and I think we'll all get behind Bruno. This was a good tweet. This came second. United up to 3rd place with a stunning performance against Southampton. Manchester United stay in 5th place.
Very good.
He really gets it, doesn't he? Okay.
He at least backed up what he said the week before with that.
Yeah.
And that's good to see.
Of course he did. Okay, winner of Tweet of the Week this week is this one. I'm going to give that new Adam and the Ants diet a try. You can pretty much eat what you want, but have to swallow everything whole. It's called Don't You Ever.
Oh.
Excellent stuff. Keep the tweets coming in. If you can get them to us this week, Zara, if you're watching on catch up or watching live, get them to me by Tuesday, please, because we are pre-recording next week's by Tuesday.
I've got some to get to you for lookalikes, which I missed out on this week, so we'll try and get them in for next week.
Lookalikes and tweets before Tuesday this week because I'm having a pre-recorded. Cheers, folks. All right, we're going to bring in a guest, and it's not Miguel Delaney. Keith, don't panic. It's Kev Whelans. How are you, Kev?
Hi, Stevie. All right. Hi, guys.
Yeah, good to see you, mate. And Melly Barnes put us in touch this week.
Yeah.
I'm going to ask you first of all. You're a Newcastle fan. You know, just give us your thoughts on how things are going so far this season, mate.
Well, flying at the minute, aren't we? It's great to see the buzzers back in the city and how well they're playing, and that even just the tempo of the whole team, the whole situation. I watched the podcast the other night on Eddie Howe, and he's thinking of how his personal kind of touches that he gets to know about the players is a different level to what we've ever had in the past. Like from gone back to probably Bobby Robson days, I've never seen to where we are now, it's unbelievable. The buzz is back everywhere, isn't it?
Yeah, it is, mate. It's fantastic. It's fantastic, mate. It's great to be a Newcastle fan at the moment, and everybody happy, and that's what it's all about, mate. Melly put us in touch for a personal reason, mate. Do you just want to have a little chat about that with us now? The floor is yours, mate.
Yeah. So 2 weeks ago, my sister passed away. She's obviously a lifelong Geordie, just like ourselves as well. But leading up to this, part of our ticky off thing was to get into the corporate box, ticky off box list. So I had arranged that, and I had arranged it for Wednesday night's game with Crystal Palace. But unfortunately, she didn't get that far. So she passed away, obviously, 15-year battle with cancer. She's only 43 years old, leaves 2 kids behind, 15-year-old Ben, who's autistic, and then our Zach, he's only a little miracle kid, to be honest. She was undergoing treatment at the time when she fell pregnant with Zach. And he was born in 2019 while she was still going through all of her treatment after this 15-year battle with this rare type of form of cancer. She's had numerous operations. During lockdown, we arranged to try and raise the funds to give her some kind of treatment that wasn't available on the NHS to try and save her life. Although we knew it was a trial period and we knew that it was a trial drug, we thought, well, least we can do is try our best and give it a go. So with Melly and with the rest of the lads and our friends, we raised over £100,000 in the local community. Friends, family, donations went massive. We had a raffle. The raffle raised £40,000 alone. We did it live on YouTube like this. Some great prizes, lodges, holidays. Like I say, we raised within it was just over 6 weeks, we had raised $100,000, the target that we needed to raise and what we needed to hit. We did that. We got the treatment that was advised to get. But unfortunately, Claire, there was something like a 1.01% chance that she would have this kind of reaction to an adverse reaction. And she had this adverse reaction to this treatment that we had paid for, which then ventilated her. She was then in RVI. She had to learn how to walk again, breathe again, talk again. She obviously came back through that, battled back through again, got her strength back up. She was operated on just again in the summer. And to be fair, the surgeon, the whole team that she's had in the past 15 years have been phenomenal. They had a really successful keyhole surgery, removed a large amount of the tumour from her lung. He was then hopeful to go back in the September, the October time, but things like pneumonia and infections kept putting it back. And then just recently, we got the news that it had grown that much. It was putting pressure on her heart. The lung was full, and they were like, listen, we'll come to the end of the road. We can't do any more. So give her about 3 months, and within less than a week, she had passed. So there was a lot of things that she didn't get to do, but there was lots of things she did get to do because the $100,000 towards the treatment and whatever else also was a few little memories for her and the kids. As you can see, she's in the background with one of her sons.
Beautiful.
And she got a lot of memories that she wanted done through this fundraising type of thing. And then the reason why this came about was trying to get the 43 minutes applause is obviously because of her age. The applause, I had a little thought. The week she died, Brian Shotton at Asherton, I've got good connections with the club. I played there, managed there with the youth team and stuff like that. He invited us in as a family to play a minute's applaud, clapping the minute's applaud for one of the home games of the week she passed. And we went, and there was 602 people turned up at Asherton, at Woodhorn Lane. And it was amazing to see just that 602 people, the goosebumples and the hairs up on my neck stood up. It was really emotional for the whole family. Asherton gave with 50 tickets for friends and family. Invited all in, hospitality to the club, and I thought it was a really nice touch. So I thought, well, why could I not make that and take that to St James's because she's missed out on the game? Why could I not do that? So I contacted the club because I was at the club when I was a young lad, and I left when I was 21 due to a car accident I had. I still had a few contacts, so I contacted the club and spoke to them. They agreed to put her in the programme. but they couldn't guarantee it could do anything more. So I went to social media to the fans and different kinds of platforms of social media and tried to put out, could we do this 43-minute applause tomorrow's game at Chelsea at home? So this is why I've came on after Melly had spoken to Melly, tried to gain that little bit more publicity, so we can then try and push this on a little bit more to try and get more around the ground that people are aware of in 43 minutes. And we do this 1-minute applause.
I mean, look, it's a great sentiment. I understand, sometimes from the club's perspective, it is difficult to do because, there are a lot of Newcastle fans, as we know, pass away, each day. And that can be the big issue. I guess it's speaking to the right person is often a hard thing as well. And with it being a transition of so many staff and people changing over with the era, it can get lost in translation. Did they get it in the program, Kev?
Yeah, so they've got a picture in the program of our with a little tribute in.
Well, that's good. That's great.
Great.
Look, anyone who watches this, we end up with about 5,000 people who watch this show. Hopefully, spontaneously, those who were at the match will do it tomorrow. Hopefully
it catches on. Once people start to clap, it'll catch on and it'll spread around the ground with a bit of luck. The club's been great, to be honest. Everybody I've spoke to have come back to us and little ideas bounced around, even from the fans' pages. The fans' pages were pushing it on and on the social media, on Facebook and stuff, spreading it, sharing it, copying and pasting everything. So it really has been touching, but it's just, she's been so inspiring with the fight that she's put in and inspired so many people around the world. She's speaking to people in America about this kind of treatment because it was really rare type of form of cancer. Only ever 40 cases known worldwide. So it's just so rare that they don't know much about it. But she would do our research and she would have answers before the doctors had answers, because she would speak to people in different countries with different methods and she would go, oh, well, can we try this? Can we try that? But she would always be speaking to other people as well and giving them encouragement. So if you can look at Claire's chance, it's all over Facebook. And you'll see her stories there. It's heart-wrenching story, but
what you've just said
really,
there,
really,
I never heard the story till you just said it there, and listening to you, it's heartbreaking. Honestly, I've sat here,
it is, yeah.
And like you just put life in perspective. But cancer doesn't pick who it goes. It just hits anybody, and sometimes you can beat it, and sometimes you can't. But what you've just said there and the way you've told that story, it's heartbreaking. Honestly,
she's got 2 young boys and a partner here that I'm sitting with them now.
But the only thing I wish the club had done, I wish they just, those big TVs like on the
big screen.
I wish they just flashed that at 43 minutes, because people then. But I'll tell you something tomorrow. At 43 minutes, unless you're a million times lucky, somebody scores on foot. I'll tell you something. I'll guarantee you, when people stand up and people start clapping, people go, what's this? And then it's infectious. I promise you, it'll go around the ground tomorrow. And if all of us do, and everybody watching this does it, but mate, you've told a story tonight, and how humbling and how heartbreaking it is. My heart goes out to you, it goes out to your kids and all your family, and the people who went, £100,000. Hats off to you, because you're a bunch of heroes. Yeah.
Well, even just the funeral last week, the funeral last Wednesday, they lined the streets. There was flowers from a house about 2 miles, hit every other lamppost with sunflowers right away down to the church. There was people lining the streets, clapping. We got out, and the fire brigade was there, because she had worked in the fire brigade union for so many years as a manager in the learning centre. It was at the church. There was over 500 people at the church, and loudspeakers outside. It was absolutely huge. So it was a great, touching. It was hard, but it was really touching to see that people lined the streets and clapping and cheering that the fight and the what she had put into it all those years, and tried just for them kids and for her partner. Everybody's been touched by it. So the least thing we could do is try and just give them kids. If we could just on tomorrow at the game,
It'll happen.
Record that and see that just for them kids to see like that little tribute from the club. I think it would be great from the fans. Absolutely tremendous.
Well, look, a lot of people in the chat are saying that. Go on, Mitch.
From what you've said about one thing, I don't think you'd give a monkeys if we scored in 43 minutes and that overtook the emotion.
No, definitely not.
sounds like should positively encourage it.
Might try and pull it in the net on 43 minutes herself.
Aye, exactly.
Yeah.
The other thing is somebody who's dealt with patients with oral cancer, head and neck cancer, both at Sunderland Royal and at James Cook and various all my lives that I've had. The one thing that stands out from what you've said is her willingness to share her experience with people going through the same thing.
Yeah.
And that's invaluable to those other people
is.
who may have made it through the other side when she hasn't.
Yeah.
Because one of the terrifying things for patients going through that is the unknown. What is this going to feel like? What is this? What am I going to go through? What procedures am I going to have?
Yeah.
And to have someone who can come from the point of view of personal experience and put their arms around them, metaphorically and in some cases realistically.
She's one of the
service to community around the world. If you're talking about a cancer that's that unusual and that rare, mate, she's a hero, and she deserves everything we can do as a fan base and a family to put together for her if we can.
Yeah. No, it's been great. I appreciate it. Like I say, she's so brave. Even Lee's just given us a card there. She's wrote cards out for the band's birthdays and with a message on it. And I filled up, started to cry just before this. And he says I should have probably waited until you've come off the screen. But
well, listen, Kev, it's not easy, mate. It's not easy It's not easy to talk about it, mate. But it is good to talk because it helps. And a memory.
You've got to talk. Get it out.
You have, 100%, mate. And
it's great. You've come on.
You sounded an inspiring lady, and I think you. I can tell how proud you are of her, and I'm sure
definitely.
the boys and our partner are in exactly the same situation. Because I can feel it from you. I can feel how proud you were of her as a family, as a brother. And it sounds an inspiring lady. I just wish I'd met her.
Thank you.
Yeah, great stuff, mate. Well, listen,
thanks for coming on, Kev.
Thanks for coming on, Kev. We will do our bit tomorrow. Let's hope everybody else gets behind it.
Thanks very much, lads. All the best. Hope to get results tomorrow as well. All right. Take care. Bye now.
Yeah, we started with some negativity that we've all suffered at time to time on social media, but things like that put it all back into perspective. And best of luck to Kev. Make sure you applaud on the 43rd minute. It only takes a minute to do that and pay your respects to somebody who was quite clearly a lovely lady, an inspirational woman, and do it for the kids. Please do it for the kids tomorrow, folks. Okay, we're going to lighten the mood a little bit now. As you know, we always have Elliot giving us his joke of the week. I was watching a football match in Japan, and at the end, all the players started doing karate and kung fu. I said to the man next to me, "Why are they doing all this?" He said, "It's 2 minutes of ninja time."
God.
Elliot, man.
Thanks, Elliot. Yep, I enjoyed that one. Don't forget the food bank t-shirt. We obviously raise money for the food bank every week. The Peter Beardsley t-shirt is up for grabs on Twitter. You've got about half an hour to bid for that. Simply go to Steve Wraith, my own Twitter account at Steve Wraith, and you'll see a pinned post at the top. And you just place your bid underneath it. And I tell you, at this moment in time, because I haven't been on live, Mark Byers is up there with one bid, £50. But that is signed by Peter Beardsley. You've got half an hour to bid. All proceeds go to the food bank, so get yourself on there now. Mitch, let's talk about the awards ceremony. The awards today. Eddie Howe, Manager of the Month. Player of the month, Miggy Almiron. Goal of the month, Miggy Almiron. Newcastle clean sweep. What was your thoughts on that?
If you want an argument that strengthens anybody who says, you just spent lots of money and you got successful, that awards 1, 2, 3 sticks 2 fingers up to that argument in one breath. He's come in. He talked about Mickey earlier this season, at the start of the season, about how he wanted to work with Bruno, how he wanted him to improve the simple things. He's give and go, but go to a place where people can get you, not just Lionel Messi. And we're seeing it come to fruition. I don't know what kind of relationship he's got with Trippier, but after he scored, it's St James's the other day, when Trippier got hold of him and was speaking in his ear for about 30 seconds after, obviously telling him, look, this is what I've told you can do. You're just doing it now. That goal against Southampton, he wouldn't have scored that last season or the season before. But now he's got the confidence and the belief in himself. And that's come from Eddie Howe. And Eddie Howe's won that managerial award, not on the back of spending money, but on how he's improved all the players around. The money's been spent wisely. Even people are now starting to concede that, actually saying, do you know what? That money was quite well spent, really, wasn't it? Yeah, because they know what they're bloody doing. And I think, testimony to Miggy, testimony to Bruno for encouraging everybody to vote for Miggy, saying, look, I'm up for this, but I don't want it. He deserves this. Again, we talked the other day about leaders in the dressing room. That's what a leader does. He says, don't give me the accolades, give my mates it. These deserve it more than me. There's something special going on at Newcastle United. And if the world doesn't believe that right now, you've got to look at that. I gather the last time that happened was in 2016, and it was Chelsea. And it was Diego Costa, Conte as manager, and Pedro for goal of this month. They went on to win the league. That's the kind of echelons we're now dancing in. Now, I'm not saying we're going to go on and win the league. That's a big jump from that. But like I've been saying pretty consistently now, if you take our form over the calendar year and extrapolate it forward, where are we going to go from the position we're in right now? And it's only one way. It's up. Yeah, Man City are the team to catch, but we've shown we don't have anything to fear from them even. We've gone toe-to-toe with them and matched them. We probably should have beat them. And so it's everything about Newcastle United and the good things that are happening there. Those awards are well deserved, both from the player point of view, and I couldn't be happier for Miggy. And from a managerial point of view, and I know Eddie Howe's already dedicated it not just to himself, but to his entire backroom staff in the way in a way, that self-effacing way that seems to run through the dressing room that comes from on high, and that again is proper leadership. No matter which way you look at it, and are we right to be a little bit excited about it? We bloody should be. I think it's just fantastic, and it's testimony to Newcastle United and how we are right now.
Steve, great, isn't it, to see success? And we haven't even touched on the England stuff. We've got 3 players going to the World Cup.
Yeah. Hard work. That's what they've put in. Hard work, leadership, and everybody willing to listen and to work together. I mean, teamwork. When you look at the way the team's played over the last 10 or 12 games, that tells you that the Eddie Howe deserved to be manager of the month. You just look, 5 wins out of 6. You look at Miggy, who's on fire. Every goal that he scores seems to be better than the previous one. And the camaraderie and the way that the team are reacting when the ball is going in the back of the net from his left foot. It just says everything about the team spirit that we have going through the club. We said at the very beginning of the season that Eddie Howe was unhappy with the fitness levels. He said they were going to raise the fitness levels. We heard stories coming out of the training camp that Eddie was reading the riot act. There was players there that were breathing out of every available hole that they could possibly imagine just to be able to get themselves into a fitness regime. It was purgatory for them. Absolute, in fact, it was hell, not just purgatory. It was hell for them. And he told them in no uncertain terms that they had to really graft and make the effort and listen and work. And if you weren't willing to be part of it, then you wouldn't be part of it. It was as simple as that. And he's been rewarded. He's been rewarded by his team, who are putting performance in after performance. He's been rewarded with the Manager of the Month accolade, and deserves it. Absolutely deserves it. But he's part of a team. He's got a backroom team, you know, and I think Eddie will probably be the first one to say this award's not just for me, but it's for everyone in that backroom team who gets those players ready for match day. And we've talked about Graham, and we've talked about the rest of them, Graham Jones and the rest of the coaching, the physios, the doctors, the nutritionalists, the sports scientists, the guys who put the training regimes together, the guys that put the video together. That's what Newcastle United is at the moment. It's a family immersed in the football club, and that's what those photographs are that you see after every win. And it's just fantastic to feel as though we are actually witnessing something special at the moment. There's a few people saying that they're not happy that we've got the World Cup break, and it might sort of knock us off a little bit. I think it's the perfect time for Newcastle United to have a break. I think it's a perfect time for us to recharge our batteries, and a perfect time to re-engage, if you like, and get that second half of the season up and running even better than the first half seemed, because that's what Eddie Howe will be aiming for, and that's what they'll all buy into.
Keith, great to see. Rachel says the treble coming to Newcastle for October, Eddie and Miggy. Be good to see a treble coming at the end of the season.
I think you always talk about give somebody some ingredients and you say what they produce. So you always taste chocolate and you judge at the end, don't you? They always look at the taste. If you look at what Eddie Howe's done, you could look at two lesser players, people like Fraser. You know, that lad was a non-entity all the way through Steve Bruce's era. And then when he comes on now, puts a shift in, you know, he grafts. And that to me is the measure of the man, what Eddie Howe's done. I think Shah's become a much, much better player. You know, I think he's become a cracking player. But there's three people on Eddie Howe summarise how good he is. He's turned Joe Linton into somebody that when he wasn't playing last week, I was gutted. You know, like when he wasn't playing in midfield, you just thought, shit, we haven't got Joe Linton. He's turned him into an absolute performer. He's a man mount in that midfield, and he's just his whole way he wins the ball back. I think the lad's awesome to watch. Almiron, he's turned him into one of the best players in the league. You can't get away from that. And did I think I would say that last year? Probably not. But Almiron now has shown that with the right team, with the right support, with the right coaches, he is up there. He's up there with, you know, and you find out that Man United and Arsenal were bidding on him in the close season. But the lad who I look at Eddie Howe and think he was genius too, Sean Longstaff, tread like a little shit last year and the year before, blackballed, ignored, tread like a dog. And that kid's got a heart as big as a dustbin lid. And he's the last 6 games, he's worked, he's run, he's been outstanding. So to me, you know, some people are saying, "Oh, Longstaff's not." I tell you what, Longstaff's brilliant, and he's done brilliant for Bruno. He's absolutely got him where it's hurted. When he made that goal for Almiron down Spurs, that was just typically Sean Longstaff. He's the one who gets kicked in the middle. He's the one who gets whacked, injured. And by God, that header I should have gone in the other day when he went over the top. But Eddie Howe, judging by the players, he's been exceptional. When it comes to the goals, Miggy's, like all you can say is it could have been 1 of 8. You know what I mean? He scored other goals that were equally breathtaking. So I wasn't surprised that to me he was the only man in that competition. It was that Miggy Almiron goal of the month. But when it comes to player of the month, I'd have voted for other people. I'd have voted if Dan Burn had been in. I think Dan Burn's been outstanding. I think if Trippier had been in, I'd have voted for Trippier. I'd have voted for Wilson. I'd have voted for Botman. and I'd have voted for Shah, because I think they've all been bloody brilliant, Newcastle. But Miggy's just been so much special. And I think the reason that Bruno showed his class and said, vote for him, because he said it, he's having the time of his life. He just knew that, you know, like that just epitomised what Eddie Howe's created. He's created this selflessness where it's not about you, it's about us. And for Miggy, it's not just the footballer. I think he's humble. I think he's a really likeable footballer. You know, my missus watched him. She says, God, he's always smiling, isn't he? You know, he just, everybody wants him to do well. But he's got unbelievable energy on a football field, even when he's chasing the ball. And the biggest skill, the biggest trait he has for me is infectious. I think he's the most infectious player we've had at Newcastle for years. You know, where you just look at him and you want the lad to do well. So I couldn't be happier than today seeing them all three get them. I'd have been gutted if they didn't. And the only disappointment about this week is Byrne not getting to the World Cup. I just think Dan Byrne covering fullback and centre half, I think was a bit harsh. And you know, I watched Dyer down at Tottenham. He's a liability. I think Maguire's been awesome. And you just look and think, why is them people getting before Dan Byrne? Because Dan Byrne never lets anybody down. Dan Byrne is like our Brian Kilcline and Darren Peacock rolled into one. He's brilliant.
Yeah, good way of describing him. Really, really is. Okay, I know lots of people sit at home or sit in their bedroom, sit at work, craving for the day that Steve Hasty won't be featured in the lookalike section. I'm afraid to tell you, today's not the day.
Yeah,
Straight in with Peter Guy, who says, no point in putting the Halloween mask on. The Barnett's a dead giveaway.
Gene Simmons, that.
John from QTech, who claims to be Steve's friend, complete the quiz to get your ultimate Aussie playlist. He's going down the album route of superimposing. This one, spot the difference and win a tasty, hasty turkey. Good to see Steve cashing in on his flame. Sainsbury's advert.
Got to be done.
Does have to be done. It wouldn't be lookalike without Peter Guy's attempt to be like Albert.
Right. Have you seen the dog on the left?
Have you seen the dog? There's Joe.
Joe, okay.
No Joe this week, but he's here in spirit. This one, I'm glad we can't play videos in the lookalike section. We caused a lot of controversy. Albert, up to his best on social media, caused Hasty and the Shy Bens, Wraith and Patterson.
Definitely need his hard drive checking that.
Needless to say, I stopped that before it became too obvious what was going on. This one was just from Tim Cairns. Steve Hasty at the top there, as you can quite clearly see. This one, bit different from Jacob. He says, I was making a cup of tea. I look up and there's Hasty watching me. And this one, Paul says, firstly, what was Steve Hasty doing flipping burgers in Southampton at the weekend? Secondly, he needs to have a word with his signwriter. Hasty Tasty.
He answered his own question in number one. What was he doing flipping burgers? He was flipping burgers.
All right. As we know, Tom Dixon does like to follow in Albert's footsteps. He's put Keith though this time on the Reface app. Getting back to Hasty though. There we go. Darren says Air Supply, also known as the Steve Hasty twins.
Oh,
what the hell?
Right.
Lordy.
Air Supply, Steve. That's a new one.
That's
it's a new one.
As well. It's a new one and an old one.
It's a new one and an old one. Mr. Hasty debating about Shelby.
Right.
Hello. And now we'll go full effect.
Oh.
Albert, Hasty Pooch
Matchup.
Oh, Christ, he's dying.
Oh, my God.
Hold on, Keith. There's some better ones.
Just push your lung back in, Keith. Push your lung back in, mate.
Steve Hasty, that is. But I don't know whether we're looking at the back end or the front end there, Steve. This one's clearly an all-round job.
It's a fucking mop.
And Sam Chipperfield says Steve Hasty looks chuffed with our win.
Yeah.
God almighty, I love the dogs.
This show should be sponsored.
I love
Should
the
be
Mark.
dogs.
sponsoring the blooming cat and
Mark
dog show.
chucked these ones in.
The bottom one's a ringer. That's like you, Hasty.
It's not a ringer, what you on about? A ringer?
I love the
You know what?
top
You know
ones.
what this is turned into? This is turned into Patterson's version of Wonky Donkey. This.
Yes, there he is
Have a word
again.
with that in deck. See if we can do Wonky Donkey. We'll do Wonky Doggy.
The bottom one, like you.
This one, John Justice Allen again. Didn't know we did Hasty key rings.
We're doing.
Another one from Devil Dog. Didn't know Steve Hasty was a secret Villa fan.
He's not.
Oh, God. I think I'd be more offended by that, mate.
Mark sent this one. We've now got horses.
Horses now.
Horses now. And I promise, Steve, this is the last one. That's it.
Chickens.
A vast variety of things that look like Steve Hasty. Anyway, moving on. This looks like Mitch, says Sean.
Maybe he's when I was 14.
I'm really not sure sometimes where these lookalikes come from. Okay, here we'll go into the serious ones. Jacob says it was nice to see Harry Kane attending Faith Dingle's funeral
What a ringer.
in Emmerdale.
What a ringer.
Pretty good. We can see that one. That was a good one. And this one from Jacob. I see official Chris Wood has an acting career off the pitch. I've got to be honest, I looked at that a few times and I'm not quite sure I could see it, but never mind.
I can't see it.
No, I couldn't either. How about this for Toon lookalike? Craig Gordon and David Platt from Coronation Street. A little bit.
No.
And this one, lookalike Paul Logan and Chris Wood.
Yeah.
Logan Paul, isn't it? Ah, yeah.
We're getting a lot of Chris Wood now. That's because he's starting to bang them in. 2-2. Malcolm was saying a penalty doesn't count in a penalty shootout. Still what? 2 goals. Still 2 goals, Malcolm.
Best penalty of the night.
Is that Bernard Breslow and Liam Kennedy? Liam will be making a guest appearance before the end of the year, folks. He is going to come back on. Well done. Well, doing shopping like this sounds fun for a second there. I thought it was Keith. I'm not sure which one he means. I'm not sure which one he means. I really don't. I've got no idea, mate. This one was good from Tom Dixon, Mesut Ozil and Buster Keaton.
Yeah.
Very good, Tom. And this one, Courtois and Sam the Eagle. Very, very good. We've got a couple of these, so I'll show them. Wayne Bennett.
I love that one.
That's been doing the rounds. A couple of people sent that one in. That one as well from David Shepherd. Thank you for that. Yeah. This one, Sam Chipperfield. When did Keith get them tattoos?
Yeah, lad, he's giving me some stick today, Big Sam.
Giving you some sticks, son. Lookalike Miggy and the guy off Maths.
Oh, that is
good. I didn't know what Maths was, but thank you for that.
Married at first sight.
Ah, right, okay. Miggy again. That's the some kind of spaghetti bolognese advert guy and Miggy. This one from Albert, loving Keith's Christmas calendar picture.
So he didn't have to swap me head now. They just did a full frontal.
He says it's a funny place to defrost a turkey, Keith.
that's what I'm like. That's what I'm like under here.
And Jimmy Moore said James Corden was a Newcastle. Didn't realise he was a Newcastle fan. We've had that a few times.
For real lad, on the NUFC.
He is. This one, I've bunked 500 women by saying I'm Mick Hucknall.
Oh, my
Steve Hasty, you little mink, says Milburn. And this one, Darrow O'Brien. This Newcastle team's even more fun to watch when you realise that Miguel Almiron is actually Ernest Borgnine.
Young one. Yes.
And this one from Tim. Rain Wilson from US The Office and Toon Scout's son. Alan Carr and Jimmy Carr and Jerry O'Connell. Thanks, Tim.
Yeah.
Lookalike the Geordie dentist and a random bit of coastline from Stephen Kennedy. Yeah, keep an eye out for them photographers, Mitch. Two lookalike actor Theo James and Fabian Scher.
Oh, that is good. That's
in the third place from Peter. Second place, Here's a lookalike, guys, a friend of mine and a fellow YouTuber called Luca on the left and some random guy at a football match on the right. The guy even had a red and white scarf on. Good one. Okay, the winner this week.
Good, that, yeah.
Winner this week. And
It's a dog.
got to be honest, I personally, I just thought of this and then I got this message on Facebook. Nikki, thank you for this. Bruno, our hero, and Owen Warner from Hollyoaks, who's currently in the jungle. They are very, very alike.
You think?
I can see where he's come from, yeah. Aye.
Very, very alike. Yeah,
Glasses
definitely.
going on down there, mate.
I think them dogs are closer. Them dogs, that mop.
The dogs are closer. Okay,
mop.
that's yellow for lookalike this week. Keep them coming in, but they've got to be into us by Tuesday. Okay, 600 watching. As I always say, we never take your support for granted. Thanks very much for tuning in, guys. Much appreciated. Please hit the like button, the little thumb downstairs. 160 of you have done it. The 600 watching. You can do it on your TV. Just follow the guide. John from QTech will tell you how to do it on your TV. But please just hit the like button. It costs you nothing. It's free. And it does help the algorithm and helps us grow. There's Suki again. He's back. John from QTech also does his quiz. 16th of October 1929 was your first clue. Your clue this week is 1958 to 1962. So there's your first two clues. You've got two more, and then you'll get a question, and the first person in the chat will win a prize. Okay, it is time to look ahead to Newcastle United's next game, the final game before the World Cup. It's a 5:30 kickoff against Chelsea at home, live on Sky Sports. The match is sold out. We're going into this game in search of our fifth consecutive Premier League victory and looking to extend our unbeaten run in all competitions to 11 games. We haven't lost in 8 Premier League games, 7 of them during the current season. We've won each of the last 3. Isaac Hayden headed the only goal of the game at St James's Park in January 2020. Newcastle have lost all 4 of their Premier League meetings with Chelsea without scoring a single goal. That sequence of events and defeats, incidentally, is the worst that we've endured at their hands in the league since losing 6 in a row in the first division between 57 and 58. Thanks to NUFC.com for those facts. Pre-match, Supermac will be at the Dog and Parrot at 3. After the match, it'll be Gibbo at 8:15. Pumphrey's, though, you will see John Anderson and Gibbo at 3 o'clock pre-match. Callum Wilson is a major doubt for tomorrow. He's still a little bit ill, despite being called up for the World Cup. Isaac, Richie, Dummett are all out. Ryan Fraser's a doubt. He missed the game in midweek. Fabian Schär is 1 booking away from an automatic 1-game ban. As for Chelsea, N'Golo Kante, Ben Chilwell, and Ariza Balaga, Reece James, Wesley Fofana, and Chuck Wamika. You think they do these to make it difficult for me, don't you? All miss out. Jorginho is set to return, though. Graham Potter is bringing Chelsea to St James's Park for the first time, having won 1, drawn 1, and lost the other of his 3 visits when he was manager of Brighton. Away games this season, well, the Blues have won at Everton 1-0 and Crystal Palace 2-1 and Aston Villa 2-0. They drawn at Brentford 0-0. They lost at Leeds 3-0. Southampton, they lost 2-1. And Brighton, they lost 4-1. Aubameyang, former Arsenal player, he scored on his last 2 appearances at James's Park for Arsenal and has scored 6 goals in total against the Magpies. And referee tomorrow is Robert Jones. It's the first game of the season that we've had him. The last time he was seen was the 3-3 home draw with Brentford, which was a year ago, which was, of course, the game that Eddie Howe had COVID. On VAR, which has done us more favours than bad turns this season, is Andy Madeley. Okay, as always, we have Toon Stato to give you a little bit of a heads up on what we can expect.
Hello lads, Chelsea from Edinburgh. I'm on my way to Newcastle to see the last game before the World Cup at St James's Park tomorrow. We are third in the table and we host Chelsea, where we have lost the last 4 games without scoring a goal. And it's our worst run against them since the 50s, when back in 57 and 58 they won 6 times consecutively against us. Today Eddie Howe won Manager of the Month, Miggy Almiron won Player of the Month and Goal of the Month. And it's only the 4th time that this happens, that our player and our manager win the Player of the Month in the same month. First time was back in August 95, Kevin Keegan and David Ginola. Then October 2003, Sir Bobby Robson and Alan Shearer. And the last time it happened was November 2013 with Tim Crew and Alan Pardew in charge, both winning the awards of the month. Back to the game against Chelsea. Newcastle are unbeaten in the last 8 in the Premier League, 1 from the last season against Arsenal and 7 in the current season. And overall this season we are unbeaten in 10 in all competitions, so let's see if we can make it 11 on Saturday. See you at the game. It's been a fantastic year. Newcastle so far have 19 wins in the calendar year in the Premier League, still 1 away from the record in the current century back in 2002 when we won 20. And let's hope we finish unbeaten what has been an amazing year. Cheers, guys.
Great stuff, as always, from Toonstat. We'll look forward to getting his next video later on in December. Okay, Mitch, dice if you've got them, and your own predictions. How do you see it going?
It's interesting. Within the stats you're both talking about, Chelsea are capable of a capitulation this season. Now, when I saw them appoint Potter, I think that on one of the shows, it might have been here, it might have been Geordie's here, Geordie's there. I said if he didn't get it right, they'd have him out by Christmas. I didn't even think that we would be the last team who played before Christmas. And I tell you what, if we bang them away tomorrow, I think Potter's in trouble. Genuinely do. The other factor is people going to the World Cup. How many of their players are looking at World Cup selection thinking, don't fancy picking up an injury tomorrow night? Whereas I can't see that mindset getting into our squad, but I can with theirs. They got hammered at Leeds. They were terrible against Brighton. They've got a capitulation in them, and I think if we get on top of them and hassle them and do the basic things we've been doing all season right alongside the work rate, I think we'll do something special tomorrow. I think we're going to do them 2-0.
Okay, Steve, what's your thoughts on the game?
Do you want Sooty?
Oh, yeah, go for the dice, mate. Go for the dice.
Yeah, go for the dice.
Right. And Sooty says a Penman.
Penman 3-1. Very good. Okay, Steve, your thoughts, mate.
I have to agree with Mitch. Dear me, absolutely nailed it there. Nailed it with Potter. I think nailed it with the way that Chelsea have been playing. The pressure that they're under, it's something new to them. They seem like a team that just don't have any coherence about them. They seem disjointed. There's players playing out of position. They don't seem to be gelling in the way that you would have expected a Chelsea team to do. They seem worse now than they did under their previous manager that they got rid of. Their performances are very, very poor, and that makes me agree entirely with Mitch on the pressure that Potter's under. We also, of course, their fans are not very happy with what they're witnessing, and when supporters start to get ruffled, that's always a little bit of added pressure, isn't it? But this is Newcastle United they're playing, and will they fold under the pressure of a 52,000 baying crowd at 5:30 who have been on the drink since 11? That's the first thing that we've got to envisage. It's going to be a great atmosphere under the lights from kick-off, nice and dark. Not quite an evening game, but not quite a lunchtime or an afternoon game. Just adds to the excitement. Will Wilson be fit? I think we're all waiting for that. What will he do if he's not? Probably play Chris Wood. I was going to go for a Penman. I was going to go for a 3-1. I think Keith and I have got it right over the last 2 games, haven't we, in terms of scores that we did. We didn't get it right last week, but we've been doing quite well. And I'm going to go for a Penman. So I'm siding with Mitch. Let's see what Keith says.
Keith?
I'd be more worried if Tuchel was bringing them back tomorrow. If it'd been playing against them, I think I'd have been more nervous. I think this lad's come in. and I just don't think he's got the full back, and I don't think he's the. I'm going to say something which is going to shock you. I remember when House signed, and I remember even when we stayed up, and people says, "Oh, some people said we need to go and get a proper manager, and we need to get a big manager." And a lot of people thought that he wasn't the fancy name they expected. But you look at Howe, and he's right up there. And I don't think they're going to give this lad, who is a good manager, I don't think they're going to give him the time. And I think Neil hit it on the head. Neil said he might not get to Christmas. And in fairness to Neil's prediction, you forget that big stretch from October to Christmas. You forget this like 6 weeks, 7 weeks missing. So really, had the season gone on as a normal season, and we had November, December games, I think Mitch would have. I think his surprising prediction would have come true. I do. I think Todd Bowley's got delusions. I think he's a nutcase. I think he's
loose cannon.
I think he's a crazy idealist, and he doesn't stop and think of how much money we have and how established and how much profit Man City's making. So you look at Chelsea tomorrow, they come to Newcastle, and I really do fancy us to win. But I had a prayer that we would go into the World Cup in the last 16 of a cup and in third place. And when I saw the side picked for Wednesday night, I went, oh, hell. And right through that game, I found it on my backside. I was twitching like a shed button. And I was terrified that they were going to get turned over. And even the penalties, I thought, oh, here we go. So to get through that, to scrape through that game, which we did do on Wednesday night, we've got Chelsea tomorrow. And I only see 3 points. And I think draws and getting beat off Chelsea is not in the reckoning. But I think they will come fighting. When I say here or by Young, I think Botman, he'll give him a new arsehole. I think Newcastle are just a different. I honestly think Newcastle are a better culture and squad, but I still just think it's going to be 2-1. I think 2-1's and I think I can well see what Neil and them saying. We'll go 2-0 up, but I can see them, getting a goal, or I can see, them scoring first or something. But I don't see anything but 2-1 win for Newcastle, and just going to the World Cup in third. We signed 2 players minimum in January, and I honestly think that we'll get Champions League this season.
Yeah, 100%, mate. I'm going with a 2-1 win as well. I think it's just great to be able to get into this stage of the season and just go, wow, we're all being positive. Everyone's expecting great things. There'll be bumps in the road, I'm sure there will be, but look, let's just enjoy it. Let's finish this part of the season on a high. We're into the quarterfinals of the Cup. We've got a great draw at home against Bournemouth. Things are looking good. Things are looking black and white. Those of you who tuned into Gibbo and Supermac last night, by the way, you will have heard John Gibson utter those immortal lines. I've cancelled dying. John has turned it into a T-shirt. We're going to give one away for the food bank for next week. John has asked for us to mass produce these, and he's going to give it a spin in the Chronicle, apparently. But he's cancelled dying because he wants to see Newcastle win another trophy.
Fantastic.
It's a great line. It's a great T-shirt. We'll put one of them up for grabs this week on my social media at Steve Wraith. I'll put it up later tonight. Get bidding on it, and it'll be a couple of weeks before the winner of that is announced, because obviously next week's show will not be live. We're pre-recording it on Tuesday, so get all your lookalikes and stuff in by Tuesday to us. Have a great weekend. A big thanks to Mitch, to Steve, to Keith, to everybody who's a moderator. Thanks to Andre for sending the video in. We're sending our love to Joe Walker, Toon Tipster. We will see you very soon, mate. Hopefully bump into you at the match tomorrow, and have a great weekend. Take care, guys.
All the best.
Cheers. Night,
Thanks, everyone.
A big thanks to all our sponsors, starting with Skips and Bins, telephone 0800 25 45 25 3, email inquiries at skipsandbins.com, website skipsandbins.com, easy contract free and pay as you go waste collection. Thanks to Darren Baldwin Funerals. You can find them at 304 Old Durham Road on Gateshead. Telephone 0191 478 273, or email Darren at darrenbaldwinfunerals.co.uk, or the website darrenbaldwinfunerals.co.uk. Thanks to Garden of Healing Dispensary, CBD hemp and cannabinoid specialists. Their website is thegohd.com. And thanks to 3 Property Investments, who specialize in sourcing investment properties for their clients who are looking to invest in the Northeast. They offer a full in-house service from sourcing the deals to managing the properties for you. They've done over 100 plus deals in the past 12 months for clients all over the UK. Give the guys a follow on Instagram, matty.patter_northeast property and phil.reed_northeast property, or email phil@3property.co.uk should you be interested in getting a good property deal. Thanks to Mr. Vicky's sauces, which are handmade in Cumbria. You can order them by going to the website, mrvickys.co.uk, or by calling 01768 210 102. Thanks to the guys at Blowhole Brewery. You can find them at blowholebrewery.co.uk. Got a vast range of beers. They're a new brewery company, and their cans are suitably addressed, like the Geordie Juice here, in the strips of Newcastle United from the 90s. Big thank you to Media Arts for all the help with the video side of things, and to qtechshop.co.uk, the makers of pool tables and snooker tables in Wallsend, Newcastle, and the guys who run our website. If you want to subscribe, then hit the subscription button. If you want to hit the likes, then hit the thumb up, and please share to your social media. We're also available as a podcast on iTunes and Spotify, and the rest goes up 24 hours after the show has finished. If you want to join, well, you can click join underneath the video and become a member for a small fee. If you want to pay the £25 fee and get a cup, a pen, a scarf, a membership card, and entry into the monthly draw, then go to the website, nufcmatters.com, and click membership, or use your smartphone on the QR code, which will take you straight there. We also give you a free car sticker. If you're a subscriber, simply email john@nufcmatters.com to claim your free car window sticker today. We also support the food bank on here. nufcfansfoodbank.co.uk is where you can find the match day bucket and make a virtual donation 365 days of the year. We still do a lot of events in and around the region. If you want to see Super Mac pre-match and after-match, you can go to the Dog and Parrot in Newcastle and hear Malcolm give his views on the game and listen to what he has to say about his career as well. Always a great afternoon. Kids are welcome. Good food, good beer. And get yourself into Pumphrey's. You can always see John Anderson and John Gibson in there pre-match on the Cloth Market in Newcastle. A couple of events coming up in 2023. An evening with Peter Beardsley, Friday the 10th of February at St Dom's Catholic Club. You can get the tickets direct from the venue. And Peter Beardsley is also at the Tyneside Irish Centre on Friday, February the 17th. Tickets available from Woucher for that one. Get yourself on the Woucher. Make a cracking Christmas present for any Newcastle fan. Also, an evening with Rob Lee, Lee Clark and John Beresford, Friday the 2nd of June, 2023 at the Grand Hotel in Gosforth. Tickets for that are available from www.healingtour.org.uk/events. And if you fancy a Christmas jumper, get the Bruno Christmas jumper from nufcmatters.com. Okay, I forgot. I don't.